Welcome to the official Lawyer Minds podcast. Lawyer Minds is an ever-growing ecosystem for all the resources modern lawyers need. As the official Lawyer Minds podcast, we'll discuss everything from the latest happenings on the website to industry news. Get ready. Here we go. It's time to dive into the minds of successful lawyers. Here are your hosts, Ted Thomas and Mike Campbell.
Mike, what's been going on?
Not much. My neck of the woods. How about you, brother?
It's cold. It's COVID. It's, 2021, but, there's a bright light in the future. We're headed the right way.
We're getting trial settings. It's hard to think about the future whenever I'm looking outside now and there's snow on the ground and it's past Christmas, pre-Christmas snow. I'm awesome with, post-Christmas snow. It's kind of like just let's get to March or April or so. It's not a lot of fun.
My goal is 6 cases this year. I've never tried 6 cases in a year. I'm going to do it this year.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. You and I have a couple set that we're going to try. And I think there are going to be quite a few cases go.
Yeah.
We're going to see, I think, a backlog of cases. And for the people who don't want to try cases, get out of the way. Let us do it.
So we're going to talk to one of my favorite trial lawyers of all time today, Vince Glorioso.
We are really lucky to have guys like this in our profession. And I think about the people we've interviewed, Mark Kodzorowski, Toby. We've not interviewed Rob Sachs, but Rob Sachs is a guy that comes to mind. You and Vince, and these guys all come to mind when I think about a line that Rick Friedman says, you better love it because it's really hard. And I think about the number of people who either run volume practices where they never get to know the clients and they never think about the impact that their case could have on the community. And I get really frustrated. But then I think about guys like you and Mark and Rob and Vince. And I get a little more self-righteous, but I'm also, reminded that we have guys like this who are really fighting the good fight.
There's that generation of trial lawyers that are around Vince's age, and there's, several that come to mind in that generation that it's sitting down and, I've been in New Orleans with him a couple of times. We've sat at a dinner table with, a couple bottles of wine and just hearing the stories that he has to tell and, the way things were in the 70s and 80s trying cases and how different it was and the characters. We all have our favorite stories from trying cases, but the characters that you run into, and Vince has a ton of them.
That's the best thing. And then you also look about like how unsafe things were.
Right. No kidding.
And then we take for granted all of the things that these guys and gals did to make the world a safer place for the rest of us.
And they really did. So, well, without further ado, let's get to our interview with Vince Glorioso. And we're on today with Vince Glorioso from New Orleans. Mr. Glorioso, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Hello to everyone out there.
Vince, tell us a little bit about your firm down there in New Orleans and what kind of law y'all practice.
We are a trial firm, and I say that because it's mostly personal injury cases, but we do handle bank fraud, stock fraud, other cases that would involve juries. So we're a trial firm. It's, over the years, it's been bigger, and now it's right where we all want it. And we is myself, my daughter Maria, my son Trey, who are the law partners. And we like to be selective about cases. And then we also like to all of us to be involved as much as possible in every case. I've forgotten some things that maybe they just picked up on. they never learned some things that maybe I forgot. But it's great working together. There are a lot of father, son, daughter lawyers who can't work it, who can't make it. With us, it's great working together.
So I've always said, it's so much fun trying cases with other lawyers. I imagine it's a special treat to try a case with your son or your daughter.
It is, because they do shine. And so you're a parent watching your two children who chose to do what you do and who do it very well. That's a great feeling.
Yeah. And you've been practicing since what, 1966?
1966.
I
won a lot of cases. I lost a lot of cases.
I think all the good lawyers have. But you went, you and I talked the other day, you went to JAG out of law school. Is that right? Or soon thereafter?
Yeah, right out of law school, I went on the JAG Corps and was stationed at Fort Rucker, Alabama, where all the helicopter training was done for the Vietnam conflict. And from 66 to 70, when I was there, people will recall, some older people will recall, 68 was the greatest buildup. And I tried all the court martials, but I was also advisor to different groups. And one of the best experiences I had is a law firm from Birmingham got a helicopter crash case, and Alabama had just adopted products liability, and they were suing Bell Helicopter. And so I got involved in that as a spokesperson, liaison with the Army. And I could see that they were making helicopter manufacturers change the design of helicopters. So fewer were falling out of the sky, and I just got a great feeling that I could be part of that, not as a trial lawyer, but part of the process of helping do that. Because there was a time or two I had to go make the call. I had to go with the chaplain and make the call to the widow. Never want to do that, brother.
We talk about cases that mean a lot, and I want to talk about some of your products liability cases, like the helicopter crash cases. But one of the cases that you had when you were with JAG, you represented the pilot who stopped the My Lai massacre.
Yeah. Just to set the scene for maybe people don't know all about it, Lieutenant Calley had, for what he thought were good reasons, revenge, had lined up a village they thought were VCs, and he started firing and killing innocents. The helicopter pilot who saw it happening, I can't call his name right now. He literally, this was all over at the time. He landed the helicopter, drew down on Calley, and said, "Stop now or I'm going to shoot you." And that stopped it. But then, of course, it was big news. And the helicopter pilot didn't know if he was any kind of trouble. So when he came to the JAG office at Fort Rucker, where he had trained before, he found me, and I had to walk him through what his role and everything was. But by the same time, the bird colonel who tried those cases, tried the Captain Medina case, tried the Calley case, was also the traveling judge that sat on my court martials. So every time he came to Fort Rucker, and after we tried a case, we'd socialize, and I knew everything that was going on. And I think William Kunstler he was also the lawyer for the Chicago 7, and he was the lawyer for, I think, Medina. I got to meet him. It's just interesting. If you're not even practicing yet, you're a young lawyer, and you're meeting one of the greatest criminal defense lawyers of all time. Fascinating stuff.
So this would have been a couple of years out of law school that you're doing this.
Would have been, 2 years out of law school.
And so did you immediately transition into civil work when you left JAG, or was there a criminal in there too?
No, I transitioned into civil, although I handled a few criminal cases. I had become close with a lawyer by the name of Francis Hare Jr., Brother Hare, in Birmingham, because they were getting all the helicopter cases. And as I mentioned, I was the liaison. So when I was getting out, he said, well, I got to get you with this New Orleans firm because they're the tops. I said, yeah, personal injury. Yeah. So he made all the personal recommendations, and I started with what was then a 15-person, all personal injury law firm, biggest in the state, had all the referrals in the state. There had been an exodus of sorts. A couple of partners and a couple of associates had left to do their own thing. So there was this vacuum where when I was hired, they gave me 90 cases and said, go try them.
Wow.
Wow, I was right.
But at least you had some trial experience before. Was anybody there helping you learn the ropes in New Orleans?
Only in the sense that they had more wisdom than I did at the time. They had more experience in dealing with clients and dealing with other lawyers. I had probably tried way more cases than any of them because people were not afraid of me. Mm-hmm. And so they'd force me to trial. They were afraid of them, and so they'd settle with it. Huh. So I got the cases that nobody else in the firm wanted to handle. So obviously I lost a bunch of cases that should not have been taken in the first place. But yeah, 12 years there, and then the grass is always greener, and I split off, formed my own firm, got up to 10 lawyers and all the staff and everything, and then I was just feeding the beast. And then Maria graduated, and gradually went from 10 to 3.
Yeah.
And it's where I want to be.
And you've had some amazing cases over the years, and I'd really like to talk about not just like the big verdicts and the big money settlements, but there's got to be cases, there are for all of us, that in your heart of hearts make you feel good about what you did in the case and the result, regardless of the monetary value. Do you have some of those that stand out in your mind?
Yeah, there's one. I won't use client names. I don't know that it would be improper to, but she met some friends, and they parked in a lot downtown, a covered garage downtown, and they were going in the French Quarter. And their host paid for the spot in the garage. They left the garage, got as far as the corner, and she was shot in the back in a robbery attempt and made a paraplegic. Everybody, 5-10 law firms turned their case down. How are you going to sue the garage for a thug for a crime that happened on a street corner? And it's a case I wanted to take. And so I developed it in the sense that crimes of opportunity in failure to have adequate security cases are almost always crimes of opportunity. Somebody wanted to kill me, they could do it. But crimes of opportunity means the setting is right. The parking lot had no guards. It had no warning signs about the dangers of the neighborhood. I'm not really choking up, but I really got to know this young lady and got to really like her. And And I said, all right, I've got to prove that the shooter chose this spot for people coming out of the garage for these reasons. So I went to Angola Penitentiary and interviewed the shooter and got an affidavit from the shooter in which he said all of the inadequacies in security that made that a right place for that crime to happen. And ultimately, we settled it for some big figure. I don't like to talk figures, but it was something that really worked right for the young lady. So that was one of them. I had another one where a crew of they were doing remodeling in a bank, and my lady worked on the 17th or 18th floor. And in the remodeling, they cut through the wires that trigger the alarm, so the fire alarm went off. And so my client, had to walk down 17, 18 flights, and she had a premature delivery. Well, all the doctors were saying, no, walking down flights won't cause a premature delivery. That amount of exertion won't do it. So I got into some research, and I learned that during World War II, there were a lot of premature births because of the emotional distress of either finding out about your loved one or fear. And so I could put the case together, try it to a jury, and try it on the emotional distress angle, and get the doctor who wouldn't testify to the physical to testify to the emotional. Wasn't a big verdict, but it was money that would help the young child, as probably good college money.
And Vince, near and dear to my heart are those inadequate security cases, because like you said, they are crimes of opportunity. A business is taking money from patrons, but then not disclosing the dangers of the patrons coming to the business. And one of the cases that intrigues me, and if you could talk about it, is there was a case involving a child that was abducted from a convenience store.
Yeah.
Could, if you're willing, could you discuss that a little bit and why you decided to take that case?
Well, early on, I think the reason early on was that not a lot of good lawyers were taking failure to have adequate security cases. And so I was getting offered more than others. And I was offered this one, and I said, this one's, you have to keep the doors open, but you don't just take cases you can win. You take cases that need to be taken, and they need to be taken by good trial lawyers. And so I developed it as a crime of opportunity. Forget what it was, 7-Eleven or something. The parent company, there were flyers out, there were bulletins coming down, there were association. They belonged to an association, and there were letters coming out and magazines coming out in which they said, look, here's some of the things you have to do. The problem was the mother left the child in the car with the keys in the car, I think. Left the child alone. And that case was hard because it involved going to Children's Hospital all the time. And I don't understand how doctors that work in children's hospitals do it. But we were able in the end to, again, get a very, very meaningful settlement that would take care of this little girl for the rest of her life. Yeah, I like cases like that. I'd like the case to come in that didn't have any challenge and just money, but that doesn't happen a lot, does it?
Yeah,
Not what we do.
Yeah. No, you the three legs of the stool aren't always there. You know, the liability, damages, and you know, when you seem to have those, the person is judgment proof. You know, and just doing whatever they want to do to harm people. So it becomes difficult. And it seems like you've done a really good job of finding ways to make sure that folks are taken care of. And, you know, the community's a better place for it.
I also want to say this, and I guess it's boasting a little. Part of it is that I worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
I put in many hours after I got out of the Army to learn this craft. I got permission to audit my first year out of the Army with the new firm. I got permission to audit the LSU freshman anatomy class. Got the Gray's Anatomy book. Got permission to go to the everything they did. And so because in this business of personal injury, you have to know a lot of anatomy. Did that, went to seminars, developed a reputation. I think two things. One, coming from the Army, your word is your bond. And you develop that reputation out in the trial world. The insurance defense lawyers see that, one, your word is your bond. Two, you're always prepared. Three, you don't mind spending the money to get ready. And four, you believe in every case you take. And I think that way, which me and Maria and Trey all strive for, we take a lot of cases that maybe we're not going to make any money on, but they're cases that good lawyers need to take.
Yeah.
Talking about good lawyers a little bit, you know, the way that I've gotten to know you most, not just, you know, through Maria, but through the Southern Trial Lawyers Association. And you're in on the ground floor in the group. Well, tell us a little bit about why Southern Trial Lawyers is special for you.
The early on, there's a lawyer in New Orleans named Larry Smith. And for some reason I never could understand, he put on the absolute best seminars, legal seminars. He could get, you name the top 10 heavy hitters, luminaries in the country, he'd get them all down for a seminar. And he got to a point where he wasn't happy having to work with the trial lawyers or the state bar or the university. He wanted to have a vehicle that he had total control of. And so for a number of years, he had a guy named Frank Branson from Texas on. Frank was sort of way ahead of his time on demonstrative evidence. At the same time, Larry was putting me on every program, either as a moderator or a speaker. And so Larry had the idea, went to Frank, let's start our own. There was a Western trial lawyers that you could model after, but there was nothing quite like Southern trial lawyers. And we started off with the idea of being 100 of the best lawyers. You had to pass muster with a lawyer from your state who was on the board of governors. And, you know, we were looking for like-minded lawyers. All the things I've just told you about what I love about the law, the kinds of things I do, we were looking for like-minded attorneys that we could have meetings with and have a good time and put on a great CLE program. And then that's developed till, I don't know, I think you are you the past president or the incoming president?
Incoming president.
Incoming president. We may, Mr. President, you would know, we may be up to 500 or so members now, but it is great fun. It is, we didn't have it last year because of COVID, and we won't have it this year. But usually around Mardi Gras time, we have an annual meeting And again, you don't have to be from a southern state. You know, we have people we like that we give a pass to. They can be like Saul from New York.
New Jersey, yeah.
New Jersey, yeah.
One of our friends is from Milwaukee, so we gave him an honorary membership.
Yeah. Gary Pillersdorf, who's passed away, he was with us all the time.
Yeah. And one of the requirements for Southern trial lawyers is you have to be a member of AAJ as well. You know, tell us about what your thoughts are on AAJ.
Well, AAJ is truly the lifeblood of lawyers who hold the key to the courtroom for people who would otherwise not ever be able to have that case heard. And so not only is it a great organization for camaraderie and mutual respect, but it's also the lobbying, if you will, arm of the trial lawyers. And you know, they help keep legislatures, federal government particularly, from passing laws that seek to take away from poor people the key to the courtroom. And so it's a great organization. I don't know. I don't know if you have to be a plaintiff's lawyer necessarily to join. I know you can be a criminal defense lawyer. But it is a great organization. I started off when it was Association of Trial Lawyers of America, ATLA. Got to meet great lawyers, got to see them, got to be friends with them. You know, if you're, again, I'm just out of the Army, so in terms of litigation, I'm still a young lawyer. You get to sit at the feet of Mo Levine, Al Julian, all these, the greatest trial lawyers of their time. Larry Smith gets them on a program. After the program, there were not enough chairs. I sat on the floor in front of luminaries just to learn what I could learn from them. Okay, great. One of the things you and I talked about was I like the idea that in a lot of cases you can force a change that saves lives. You can force a product manufacturer to do something that saves lives. You can force a city to, for example, post no diving signs where it's not safe to dive. I had a case like that. Young man from Argentina, where he lived, if there was a sign that said no diving, it was dangerous. If there was no sign, you could dive. He comes here, he goes to an area where everybody who lives in New Orleans knows you don't dive from, knows that there's riprap all over the place. The only thing you do there is when you're a teenager, you park your car because that was a lover's lane. But he dives off of the end of it, no signs. He becomes an incomplete quad. Without numbers, it was the largest verdict in the history of this state.
Wow. And
it did two things. One, it set a framework for pain and suffering damages, where our Supreme Court said that the amount in that case was closer to the mid-range than to the high range. So we expanded what a court would ultimately approve. Two, the law was there was no duty to warn against the obvious hazards of diving into an unknown body of water. Well, we had to get that law changed by the court also, because that law existed, came in. First, there was contributory negligence. That kept all those cases out. Then, when our Supreme Court declared that we would be a comparative negligence state, the legislature came in and passed a law that said no duty. So those cases were getting thrown out. So I had to convince all the way up to the Supreme Court that you shouldn't be allowed to do through the back door what you can't do through the front door. Mm-hmm. And that act is in violation of the Constitution, which recognizes comparative fault. So that case, I don't know if I could say it got a lot of local publicity. Don't know if I could say it put me on the board or not, but.
Before we close, living in New Orleans, I've had enough bottles of wine and nice dinners with you. I know you've got some interesting New Orleans cases. I'll call them New Orleans style because they're unique to your neck of the woods. Tell us about one of your favorite New Orleans style cases.
I think one of my favorite is a streetcar case. So people know that New Orleans has trolleys or streetcars. And so, but this also case will also illustrate one of the examples I use of unreasonable expectations. So the client is visiting New Orleans from a real rural, small town, upstate Louisiana, and he's visiting his children, and his ex-wife is driving the car, and she cuts, you can't make a U-turn at the corner, so the next opening she cuts in, makes a left turn, dangerous, all that stuff, gets hit by a streetcar. The lawyer brings me the case. He's been sitting on it for 8 years because he doesn't know what to do with it. So I start going through it, and I find out that it happened in front of a famous, well, then a very popular college bar called Fat Harry's. And that there were some witnesses outside because the bar overflowed onto St. Charles Avenue. There were some witnesses who would testify that the streetcar driver was looking at all the co-eds on the sidewalk and not where he was going. And so I had to, one of them, this is also colorful flavor. So one of them one of the witnesses who didn't want to get involved had bought a bar called F&M Patio, another famous college hangout. F&M, by the way, very few people know, is for Thump and Manny. So I find out he just bought the place. He doesn't want to cooperate. I go in there one night. I meet a bunch of students. I talk to them. You guys celebrating something? Yeah, all right. I say, they're celebrating. Bring them a couple of bottles of champagne. Well, we don't have champagne. Well, what do you got? We'll bring a couple of bottles or whatever they want. They want vodka. They just bring the bottles to the table. And then I introduce myself. I'm Vince Glorioso. So I'm Zeke. Zeke, wait a minute. That name's familiar. Were you a witness to an accident? Yes, I was. Could you help me out? Of course I'll help you out. You just spent hundreds of dollars in my new place. So then that was another part of, like going to Angola to get the shooter's affidavit and going here to get this witness to be cooperative. Is just, I don't know. It's fun. Most of the time it's fun. Some of the times it's not fun, but most of the time it's fun.
It was a real sacrifice, I'm sure, for you, Vince, to go to a bar and buy alcohol and entertain a group of people. That's the people that know, that's a real stretch there.
Yeah. Well, and to have ulterior motive, I never had.
God, couldn't be.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick one. Maria was telling me about something the defense counsel was telling her about. And she said, do you think he has an ulterior motive? And I said, Maria, Mother Teresa had an ulterior motive. She wanted to go to heaven. She wanted God to love her. So from time to time, I'll say, what did the defense lawyer say? She said, Mother Teresa. He's trying to Mother Teresa me. He's trying to Mother Teresa
great.
me.
I love it.
So that developed. Hey, this has been great fun for me, guys. Look.
Enjoyed it.
I will come on anytime you want. Maria, Trey will come on anytime.
Perfect. Love it.
We'll all come on together.
That's great.
That'd be great. Looking forward to celebrating with you again sometime soon, Vince.
Yeah, hopefully so.
We are grateful to have you and are lucky to have a guy like you fighting for people. So thanks for all you do.
That means a lot. Thank you. It really does.
All right, so one quick story about Vince. We were at a Southern Trial Lawyers, I guess it was during the convention, and he had dinner at Galatoire's. No, Brennan's. Sorry, we were Brennan's. And so there's this huge, long table, and Vince is doing his thing. He's like, got all his friends, and they're all coming, and I'm sitting on one end of the table, and, he thought I was special or something. So he goes, Tad, you need come over here. And he points to the other end of the table and he goes, you need to sit over here where it's important. And so, this is like a table for like 25 people. And so I go and I'm like, thank you, Vince. Thank you so much. And so I sit at the end of the head of the table.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I can't believe Vince Glorioso wants me to sit at the head of the table.
Yeah,
so
right.
he makes his rounds, seeing all his friends, and he comes back. He goes, oh, no, I meant sit here and sit next to me. This is my seat.
Awesome. Yeah.
I was like, I got it.
Yeah,
so this is good too, Vince. Thanks.
Yeah, you're important, but not that important. Yeah, that's great, man.
It's
what a guy.
And my favorite line of the whole interview, was, sometimes we trial lawyers have to take cases not because of the money, but we need to take cases that need to be taken.
That's right.
And no truer words have ever been said.
I mean, again, you got to love it, right?
Yeah.
You have to love what you do. And if you think about it in terms of a transactional relationship with your clients, then I'm not a big fan of you. I'm not going to say I want you out of profession, but I'm not going to, because I think back about how lawyers jumped into my family's case and salvaged what was a shipwreck that was handled by another attorney. And I think about the impact that had in my life and honestly on the manufacturer of this faulty product that killed my dad, and how we could have been just a number on a balance sheet or a ledger sheet. But you got guys like, again, you and Vince and the other people we've interviewed who give a crap, and take cases like a robbery outside of a parking garage that no one else will take and say, what can I do for this person?
Yeah, and say this place needs to be safer. There's I got to do it in a trucking case, and I know others have done it. At the end of the case, when it gets settled, it's not just about the money payments. It's, hey, you need to change your policies and procedures to fix whatever this issue is, or you need to warn against this particular issue. And Vince was telling me on our prep call yesterday, he was talking about it. One of the cases he had was a boating case, and there was a defective plug essentially, and part of the boat that when you got out on the ocean, it caused it to sink. And his client was a young boy who watched his dad drown. And and just hearing Vince tell that story, it was amazing. But the manufacturer changed the way that this plug works, and they changed every model.
Right. And we get those cases in where we realize something really bad happened here, and sometimes we get them too late because, Vince was talking about the case where it was 8 years in and the attorney reached out to him, hadn't done anything on it. Sometimes we get them too late. And if you're, listening to the podcast and you're handling a case that you might not feel comfortable handling, reach out to someone like Vince in your area who's handled these cases before and, just brings a whole new perspective to things. And that perspective, I think, is based in how can I do right by this person in the community? And that's just really nice and refreshing to talk with him about that.
Yeah. It's great. So I'm looking forward to the next Southern Trial Lawyers and getting to hang out with Vince and sit in the right spot.
Sit in the right spot at the table. When he listens to this, he's gonna love that because I'm sure he's gonna again invite you to sit he might even let you sit at the head of the table now, Tad.
But I'll know better.
You've learned.
I'll know better.
You've learned, brother.
All right, Mike, great chatting.
You too, man.
That wraps another episode of the official Lawyer Minds podcast. Please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Explore the other content Lawyer Minds has to offer and engage with us on social media. Your feedback on the show and ideas for future shows is always welcomed. See you next time.